This
They
conference
found
will
some,
now be recorded.
the folks that reviewed it found some spelling errors, and I think there was some questions about the error classifications. Nothing, no pushback whatsoever. It was just more like, hey, you need to put a space here, like or you have an extra space or stuff like that. But I did make one proposed change to the document to clarify something. But it doesn't change the meaning at all. So it's proposed, so you can take a look. And then if they said add a space, I just added a space, like grammar corrections I just took. So anyway, I hope that doesn't concern anyone. As far as I'm concerned, it's fully approved by Google at this point.
So I'm seeing a bunch of comments like last week. Yi left a bunch of comments. And then where is your proposed change? Host at CPU cannot run code. Is that what your proposal?
Yeah, that's the one thing
Let me share so everyone gets the context about what's going on here.
Thank you. Yeah, and if it's controversial, we can take it out. It's not required, but it was clear that it was confusing, or not confusing, but not as clear as it could be. And I thought that E made a good suggestion.
As soon as I can find that in this little sharing window.
And I need to pull up the document. I don't know what's going on. I think Google decided to block a GoToMeeting. I don't know. I'm saying that jokingly, but I can get to everything else on the internet.
I think everyone is frustrated with GoToMeeting. So who else was saying that they were blocked? I think it was Paul. Paul Fahy was saying that Micron had apparently, their IT had blocked GoToMeeting too. So anyway, I hope everyone can see what I'm sharing.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I just added, I think this is consistent. Mark Fletcher really drove a lot of these definitions, but you had a question here, and about what this meant, and so I just put this in the example that the VR can't run code anymore, or the VR this VR means the host can't run code anymore. So, seemed pretty straightforward. So Mark, hopefully that's not controversial with you.
No, I don't think so. Obviously, yeah, you can't execute code on a VR fault.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. It seemed obvious to us, but the reviewers in Google were like, "Hey, is this what this?" They get it once I explained it. So hopefully that's okay. And if you all are okay, Yogesh, maybe you can accept the suggestion if there's no objection.
I'm going to go ahead and accept it. If anyone differs, just raise your voice.
Okay. Like I said, and everything else is more, like I think he said, hey, you use the term node without defining it at the beginning of the document. So at the beginning of the document, I just, I put a link. Oh, and so some of these things like standardizing terminology, I just told him, hey, it'll be the next version of the document. And I think that one of the things we need to do is look at all the standards that we needed to change or the things that we wanted to influence, and then put them in a table, break them down, and say, here's our plan to address each of the things that we need to adjust. And then he also suggested, what are we prioritizing? And I think, as usual, Yi had a good suggestion there. Okay, and so I don't think we have to act on the rest of these comments. I just left them, so you all would. Would see it. And by the way, he is very supportive of this. He implemented a lot of the infrastructure inside Google. So, he is certainly not pushing back. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, what was the plan, Drew? You said you were going to do some versioning, and we need to send it to IC, and I need to update some of the sites based on the
Yeah,
feedback that
I think what I can do is mark it as I'll clear out, what we can do is just accept E's comments. I just wanted people to see them. And I think at this point, everyone's had a chance to, approve or disapprove it, right? We've been sitting on this for a month or so.
yeah.
Like I think we just call it approved, and I don't know what the next step is. Perhaps like John or someone can do.
I'll take the next step. I'll send it to IC and ask for a time slot. Now that we know that nothing else needs to be done, I can take care of the next step. Just want to make sure that this is the version that I'll save as 1.0 in Word or something, and
Well, I'm
hopefully it
just going
doesn't.
to version it. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is go to version history, and
Okay.
I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to accept the comments first, but you can just go to version history, and that way we don't need to have a different link, because basically I had to uh, like follow a chain of links to see all the versions of this document. It'd be pretty nice if we could just have one, document that we grow. And maybe we save a PDF if people want a record, but by versioning it under it's called file version history, we can always see the version history, see who changed what when.
Okay. My question to John though would be: this is a Google Doc. Would it be better to give IC a PDF version? Is that what they prefer? Or
There's no harm in doing that. We can, I mean, it would just save as PDF, right?
yeah, that's what I'll do. Okay, let's go with that.
Okay. I'm going to change the title to version 1.0.
Okay, you can take care of that, and then from there I'll generate a PDF once you're done.
And then I'm going to name the version 1.0 and just say fully reviewed by OCP hardware fault management team. So I just renamed it. I just marked it as version 1. And so, yeah, I just go to file save and we'll have the PDF.
Okay, I can see that.
Or
Pretty straightforward.
file download. Sorry, file download PDF. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so switching. So there's nothing else. Is there anything else on this document, folks? If not, I'd like to switch to error
Yeah,
injection
I'm
document.
sorry to pull us back. I just, trying to close it.
No. Those are good. It's good to have another set of review. So that's helpful. Thank you for getting that done. Is there anything else on this document? Everyone knows where to find it and all that. Jyotika, good to have you back again. You're able to access and you have rights and everything, right, to get to the file.
Yes, thank you so much. I do. Yeah, I've been delayed in completing my review.
Awesome. Okay,
That's
so
great.
shall we switch to the error injection document now?
Sure. So I haven't done much to it because I've been in crisis. There have been a few kind of things I've urgently had to work on here. So I will put it in. I'll put the error classes in a table. But we did have the excitement at the end of the last meeting, so maybe we should go back to that.
Yeah, that's what I was just discussing with Mark right before you joined. So where do you want me to go, Drew? Are you seeing what I'm sharing, or you're just
Yeah,
looking at your?
I'm catching up. Well, so Mark, why don't you you want to refresh our memory on what you were talking about?
Yeah, I'm not sure we can have the conversation because we really need an OS person. But yeah,
Oh,
what I'm basically just talking about, you know, how, management of CXL devices is going to take place. And you know, right now I would say we're in a difficult spot. Um, we did have a good meeting this week and talked to some details, and one of the details is you know, there's 3 mailboxes potentially on a CXL device, one for the OS, one for the platform, and one for the BMC. Unfortunately, the second 2 of those are optional in 2.0. They don't become mandatory until 3.2.
Yeah.
So that's a real problem for management. You know, ultimately, I think for the 2.0 side, it can only be done by the OS. And you know, ultimately, I wanted Rama here because I wanted to hear his feedback.
Well, when you
And
say that it can only be done, you're saying if it's optional. I mean, like, let's just say, I think it's a little different. I think you're in a different position than the cloud service providers because we limit what goes in our data center where, you know, like an HP server has to support all kinds of PCIe cards where, you know, we can say, hey, CXL vendor, you support out-of-band management? Oh, good. We like you. We'll use yours. You know, so I think I agree strongly with you. I think you're in a different situation than perhaps the cloud service providers are in.
yeah, that's potentially true. Although I think in our case, you know, we have the ability to limit some as well. It's just, you know, the problem is that, you know, can you as a server vendor come in and say, well, you know, we're only going to support this CXL card because it has, you know, support that's not, you know, spec to be present until 3.2.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know,
I agree. And like for us, we can just say this is the only card we support. Get over it. So I think that's exactly the problem. I agree. Um, but I think Rama is kind of in the same situation that I am in that if, you know, he works for a place that would design a card that works for their data center, right?
well, but yes, but ultimately, that's what I wanted to hear because the idea is, you know, what I really want to understand is, you know, is the OS in a position, you know, to select specific devices and manage them? Because I'm not convinced that every OS is prepared for that. I think Linux probably is better than any, but you know, ultimately I wanted to hear what Windows was
Oh,
planning.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and again, I care about Linux, and that's really it. So, you're absolutely right, Mark.
Yeah, I need to know, you know, ultimately about all tier 1 OSs because we need to be prepared to run all of them.
All of them,
And
absolutely.
and yeah, and then ultimately if Microsoft has cards that they've identified that they know that work, you know, man, I'd love to see a list of those because those are the ones that we would then acquire and test with, right?
Got it.
So
So
yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry, guys. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, yeah, I'd say you go ahead.
No. Just trying to clarify. My memory is weak. I guess why we were discussing this in the context of error injection.
Essentially, what we're talking about is, you know, how we're going to deal with poison creation, assuming error
Okay.
injection on a CXL device, and
Yeah.
how is that going to manifest in the system? And you know, so let me just explain the implications, right? If we're using a device that's 2.0 compliant that does not have the optional mailboxes, there is no way for anybody other than the OS to actually capture the error log on the CXL device. And the protocol there is read and clear so that you make room for the next events.
Yeah. So I think what would happen in our case is we just design a CXL card that uses the memory parts we want, that has a chip that does what we want.
Yeah,
So,
hold on though. Let me just check something about Mark's statement, right? I mean, Mark, I thought, and I could be wrong, that CXL supported a like notion of firmware first through that mailbox. Am I?
Well, yes, it does, but I mean, this is where things get dicey. There is an OSC handshake
Yep.
to determine ownership.
Yep.
And the problem is that, I don't think you can take, that mailbox away from the OS, even in that OSC handshake, because that's the only interface the driver has. And by definition in the spec, the the OS owns that mailbox. So if we as a platform claimed ownership, we would get a VDM NMI, I'm sorry, VDM SMI event, but we might not get the contents of the mailbox if the OS got to it before we did. So there's, in my view, there is not a way for firmware first to manage CXL devices in the 2.0 compliance range.
Yeah. I mean, if the driver needs to use that mailbox, I 100% agree with you. That's just broken.
Yeah,
Um,
and the driver has to use it. I think it's, there's not an option. The only way the OS would have awareness is through that interface.
well,
well,
I guess,
but hold on. But there's two. Hold on. This
Guys,
there's a
can I interfere?
yeah.
I think the discussion here is a problem with the current definition and implementation, and there is a solution in the future. So I don't know if we have to discuss this type of problems here, at least not in this context of error injection.
That's
It's a good
fair. And
discussion,
yeah.
but I don't know whether this is relevant here or not.
I think it's okay because you're trying to. Well, I don't want to just kill the discussion, but I think I agree partially with you, Anil, and that's why I also brought up. But I think the problem is not exactly being solved. JEDEC is working on CMM profile, and the secondary mailbox is probably going to be mandatory for Type 3 devices. Now, in addition to that, what is needed, and I think some folks are already thinking about it, is hiding that from OS, ability to hide it, cloaking, as we use the term. So that would be something that would definitely bring firmware first at parity with the OS native.
Correct. And
yeah.
so today's the implementations are mostly OS first, and when there is a firmware first, there is a sort of custom design. We have done it, and I'm pretty sure Google might have done it. So solution exists. It's just proprietary solutions right now.
Well, okay. But if the driver needs to actively manage that, I mean, I'll just say there may be some problems with that. So
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
tend to agree with you that we don't need to discuss it here, Anil.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark,
Right.
Mark, if you want to reach out to me separately, I mean, I'm happy to look at it again.
Well,
Certainly.
and I
So,
think
Yeah,
the
I
other
think
thing
that's the
we
right
could,
thing to do. Let's work on offline, and I'm not discounting Mark's concern because that's a valid concern. We went to that actually the whole thing for the last, I would say, 9 months, and we eventually solved it. But it's not easy.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with
well,
Vilas. If
the,
it's not architectural, then this remains a problem for fault handling in general. Like you can you can clock it, but
the
it still remains a problem.
the
I
point
think
I would, I'm sorry, but Yogesh, the point I would make here is that if it's OS first to start out with, it's likely to remain OS first forever, right? And I don't have a problem with that. It's just that the idea being that because those capabilities will arrive later, which makes firmware first a possibility, the fact that all of the effort will be put into management through OS first. And, because of that reason, I can't see that the platform would ever be in a position to manage CXL ever.
what we could do is we have someone that I work with who drove a lot of the out-of-band support for CXL. I think maybe in the future standards. I mean, I can go query him and see what he says. We could even maybe get him to come talk to us about how he sees out-of-band going. But for like cloud service providers that that rent machines to end users and have to support bare metal, we have to have some out-of-band way to do it, and we've got a plan. So maybe I can get him to come talk to us, or we can find someone else that's involved with that working group.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I say there is a plan. There's a third mailbox that is MCTP that
Yeah, that's
the
it.
BMC owns, and the idea is, I think that's the intent for out of band, which sounds perfectly okay to me. But again, it's only mandatory in the 3.2 timeframe.
Yeah.
So it's all going to be device dependent, right? And as you say, you might have the luxury of choosing, but it makes it very difficult for a platform vendor.
I agree, and it's a sweet luxury. I'm grateful for it, but I agree that it's a problem for you. I 100% agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. I think Vilas made a very good point, right? Let's work offline. Don't discard this issue, right? And if Vilas can help provide some guidance to Mark and maybe work together, that let's address that. In here, let's come back here and focus on the requirements. Align ourselves, right? What are the error injection requirements that we should put into as part of the OCP recommendation? Now we can
Sounds
discuss
good.
about injecting errors on CXL device. That's a very valid discussion here. And the way I see it, for type 3, the main error injection we need is the injection in the errors in the memory itself. Right now there is no spec-defined way, at least not in the context of EINJ, that we can write to the memory controller and inject error. So each device vendor has developed their proprietary way of accessing those injection logic. Question is, how do we standardize that? And can we put
Yeah,
some requirement here? Should we?
I'm gonna. Yeah, and I think like there's a section, a PCI and CXL device section that you put a table into, and we need to think about that. The table's useful, but we may need another table for injecting that it can support all the other things. But I'd like to add to the PCI and CXL devices and just put CXL.mem. And I think that's that's my proposal is that, and I'm apparently not connected to the network. So I think like right there, yeah, can we just put cxl.mem and then uh, uh, we need to figure something out there because I think we need to test it.
Yeah, and I would say if we have to prioritize, right? I mean, so memory injection, right now we have EINJ method. We need to improve on that because there's a lot of limitation there. That's a low-hanging fruit that we should write down our requirements. Now for the PCIe, there's a much bigger hole which we should fill. That is very baseline across the board. How can we enhance our EINJ approach? Or come up with a different approach to inject various kind of PCI errors.
Well,
That'll be applicable to CXL.
yeah, and I think also it's not even, well, okay, maybe it is the errors, but like I 100% agree with you, Anil. And like we've been, one of the things I've been looking at a lot lately is poison TLPs, because we all know that, let's just say there is non-uniform goodness or badness when it comes to PCIe devices honoring poison. And so like right now, if I want to test poison containment out PCIe, I have to inject a memory error and then convince the card to read it to egress a poison TLP. So there's a lot of room in I/O improve things like that where the error is maybe even somewhere else, but we want the link to simulate having the error without having to convince the driver to read a bad buffer, right?
Yep. Yeah. So if let's maybe pick one topic at a time and let's put some requirements together and brainstorm. But different opinions.
And maybe what we can do is we need to put this in a table. And I promised I would do it. And I'm really sorry. I've been kind of in crisis. I think it's wrapping up. But what I'd like to do is walk through the machine location and types quickly at a high level, not looking at every single error, but try to say, this is the priority. Like we have problems here. Let's start here, or let's do early work here, because that'll help us focus a little bit. Does that make sense to you, Anil?
Sorry, Drew, I'm not following you. Can you say a little more?
Yeah. So if you look, we have all these locations: CPU cores, caches, uncore interconnects, socket interconnects. Where like if we walk through this list, can we go P0, P1, P2? Just real
Got you.
quick, and
Basically, you're saying,
try to.
yeah. No, I
But
get
at the top level, like not individual errors necessarily, unless there's something super urgent about one of the sub errors, but just kind of say, hey, where are the biggest pain points at a high level so that we can pick a topic and focus on it, just like you were saying.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think we kind of we did that very loosely, but it's good to put a table. Priority wise, memory and then the PCI device, right? Those are two.
Okay, well, let's look at that. So CPU cores we're saying is lower. So can we just walk through methodically and put here? I'll show you what I'm proposing because I can connect to the dot. I could say P1 or P0 or P2, and then when I put them in the table, I'll transcribe all the priorities. But at least for the time being, that would help us focus on
No, that's
like
fair.
P0.
Yeah. So if you look at the
I
at the
see
fleet
you're
level, right?
typing Simon, then you can yeah, go ahead and do that. I was going to do the same thing.
Yeah. At the fleet
So
level.
okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Anil. I keep stepping on you because I think there's some lag on my phone.
No, I was just saying that at the fleet level, right, what kind of failures we see, that should drive our thought process of verifying, creating injection method to validate those flows during the validation phase.
Absolutely. So let's just walk through each section, and you can speak up when you care. So I would say CPU cores are we need to test them because we do find errors in them, but it's kind of like a P1 or
Right.
P2.
Yeah. So definitely not P0. So let's put either P1 or P2, like just P1/P2, right? We can then come back and decide either P1
Does
or
anyone
P2.
else have an opinion? Is it P1 or P2?
And just the definition, right? P0 is high priority, P1 is a little bit less, and P2 is even lesser. Like that's
Well,
all.
P0 is you don't have a product if you don't have it, right?
Yeah, it's required. P0 is required. P1 is not required, but still a priority. The problem
It's
is,
really needed, but but in a pinch you can live without. That's kind of how I see a P1.
yeah, you can certainly ship without it. And
Yeah.
the idea is invariably what always happens is it's only the P0s that matter and get done. So
Well,
We
from a
do some
requirement,
P1.
yeah, from a
anything we have
requirement
that's
point of view,
yeah.
from a requirement point of view that we are doing right now, we will cover all. Okay, it's just where we focus first. Now, implementation point of view, Mark, what you're saying probably makes sense, right? But we are not talking about implementation here. We're talking about what should be our requirements.
Okay, caches and home agents. So I think there are a decent number of errors from caches because it's a pretty big structure in the chip.
Right.
I would tend
So
to
I think,
call it
yeah, I mean, it would be it's within the CPU die, right? They are kind of in a similar bucket.
the P1.
Yeah.
Okay, uncore interconnect like mesh. I think being able to inject there is like a P2.
Yeah, this is, yeah, P2, and also now this is where I can say that from implement point of view, I know there's a lot of pushback and it's very hard also. So P2 is okay.
Now for socket interconnect, I think I would say P1 because
Yeah.
We see socketing problem. We see problems, right?
So this is a non-PCI link, okay? Sorry, non-link related.
It's
In the
QPI
interconnect,
hypertransport, right?
yeah, what I mean is not the, so when you say socket interconnect, then you're saying link level, retry, retain. This, if that's the focus, then, oh, okay, so this is non-PCI basically saying. Link, but not PCI. Not spec defined. Is that what the
Yeah.
scope?
This is like QPI hypertransport, so not
Yeah,
PCI.
okay. Then in that case, P1 is fine. Yeah.
So
Okay,
just
go
to
ahead.
level
Someone else.
just to level set, we have, I'm highlighting, I don't know, Drew, you can see, we have
Yeah.
P0, P1, and P2, okay? So, and right
Yeah.
now we're trying to just stay at the kind of a category or a subsystem level, not getting into what level, right? What are we injecting?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think perfection's the enemy of good enough. This is a first pass, right? And we will come back to this. Hey, by the way, if you click the little gap between the pages twice, the gap will go away. It'll show just a line.
Oh, okay, nice.
I prefer that view. I mean, who cares what page it's on, right? We're just editing a doc. Okay. So then missed socket errors. What do you all think? And if by the way, if you object, please speak up. We're just trying to go through it quickly. But if we're saying something we shouldn't, please speak up. I don't mean to step on anyone.
Yeah. For now, let's put this into. So I mean, when it comes to voltage and temperature, they are a little bit at higher than P2. So maybe, but at the same time, it's not that easy to implement error injection capability there. But I think it's from a requirement point of view, let's put P1.
Any objection?
That'll be my recommendation. But as Drew said, please feel free to.
Yeah. Okay. I'm putting P0 by memory controller. That one is ragingly important. Right. EC
Yeah, so
squares.
Wait. Hold on. But there's lots
Go
of
ahead.
different things under here, right?
yeah. So
So
that's yeah.
yeah.
So there's some
We want it
bucket
all,
between.
Vila. Come on.
I think DRAM errors, if you look at the subcategory, that
So
we can put
I think,
P0.
hold on a second, guys. I thought we decided that let's do the subsystem. We'll do a second level where we go in there and see what's
All right,
higher
that's
priority within that category. Okay,
That's fine. Okay.
that would be second pass. Okay. So
Oh,
moving
I
on then.
agree. Yeah, I know where you're going, Vilas. I agree with you. I'm just being facetious, but you're right. But let's I think let's do it coarsely, and then we can refine it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I think PCIe is the same way. I think this is where I can read Anil's mind. He wants P0 here, and so do I. Right, Anil?
Yeah, because these are big machines, right? I mean, so many PCI devices, and it's very, very complex to test.
Well, let's just say the last few weeks have been nothing but one giant PCIe emergency for me. So
I'm worried, man.
maybe we need to go grab lunch and cry on each other's shoulder, Anil. It sounds like you're having fun too.
Yeah.
Okay, and then PCI and CXL devices. I mean, this is also just the same, right? It's the same. I guess actually, I tell you, like this is the device. So I think it's important. Is it a P0? I don't.
So
What do you
within
think?
the device
With type
itself,
3, I think it will
let's put
be
it
the
as
same
P1.
as memory, right? Because you're again, same as memory because you're basically creating, expanding your memory space to that, right?
Okay. Yeah, I buy that. Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So why don't we say P0? And I think I think that that's true. In fact, it is a known pain point, and this other effort that Rama's been involved with GPUs, that was like one of their starting points for the pain was how do we inject errors? I mean, we can say that, that's public, right? They told us that before. So, yeah, I think that makes sense.
Now, one question. I do not see any mention of HBM anywhere. Do people think that would be part of CPU or it could be GPU also?
Well,
In the
HBM would be memory controller, right? It is a memory controller. I mean, where's the HBM? If it's on an accelerator, it would be on the GPU. If it's on a
Yeah.
compute node, it would be just memory controller, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do not see any mention of that anywhere, so that's why I brought the point up.
I'll say what I'll do is put by DRAM errors, and I'll just say includes HBM attached to the compute node.
And
Yeah.
I think,
And what,
I mean, realistically, Drew, I think once we go back and refine this, I think what you'll find is we'll get a list of subsystems, and they're going to apply equally to CPUs and to like GPUs and to accelerators, right? So like the memory subsystem,
okay.
right? Pretty much every accelerator is going. No. I'm not suggesting you delete that, right? I think you say include
Well,
CA,
but I think I'm
right?
just saying includes
Yeah.
HBM. If you're
Yep.
prefetching a truth, why
Yeah.
don't we just save some trouble?
Yeah, right. I think then, once you do it by subsystem, then it'll be like, hey, it doesn't matter if it's a CPU or a GPU or an accelerator or whatever, right? So,
I think that's largely
Further, I
true.
agree. Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
And there is LPDDR also, by the way.
Oh,
And
sure. Yeah, I mean, we have LPDDR for sure. Yeah.
I agree with you, Vilas, but I think what will end up happening is same techniques, but different either paths or different vendors, right?
no, I understand,
So
but this is a set of requirements, right? So, I mean, anyway, it's fine. Let's keep going, right? I think we can
Well,
work
and
through
we'll
those
see how
pieces, right?
it plays out. But I think, um, like in terms of, so I was just talking to some of our product management people today, and we were talking about, what's really important. Where do failures occur? And a rough mental model is look at the number of square millimeters of silicon, and that's where the failures occur, is where the most square millimeters are. And if you look at how much silicon space is devoted to the main DRAM, it's pretty big. And if I compare that to the memory in a GPU, that's where I'm not 100% sure. I really want to inject errors in a GPU, but in terms of overall failure rate, let's pray they don't fail as often as DDR does.
Just be cognizant that it's a function of the area and of the ECC that's applied. And on a DIMM,
Sure. I'm
right?
talking about bit fit rate. I totally agree with you there.
Yeah.
Oh, are you implying that GPUs have a worse ECC?
No, I'm applying that different memory technologies allow for different ECCs.
Oh, well, like we have LPDDR with ECC.
No, I
So,
understand, right? But like as an example, a DDR channel allows for chip kill as the strongest, right? LP doesn't allow that. So the error rate you're gonna get from an LP system is likely to be higher than for a DDR system. Same thing with an
that,
HBM,
yeah,
right?
that's where I was going to stretch your thinking a little bit. You can have really good, I mean, maybe not chip kill ECC, but you can throw multiple LPDDR parts at a problem and get pretty good ECC.
I
So,
understand. I mean, I
but
understand what's possible, right? It's the same thing with HBM, right? Be careful. HBM technology, right? Like if you look at the
varies
architecture,
widely and on the implementation.
yeah.
If you say it's per implement, okay. If you tell me it's per memory controller implementation, I buy it. If
Yes,
you
that's
say
what I'm
it's
saying.
per technology, then I don't buy it. That's all I was trying to say. So okay, I think we're aligned. Yeah. So it's really per memory controller implementation for that particular device. Okay. Um, okay. Well,
Yeah.
so So
Just,
given that, it sounds like we're starting with memory and PCIe.
I just had a quick question. And sorry, this is because I haven't been part of this since the beginning. But is the objective of the error injection in this case to measure the effectiveness of the protection schemes, or are we just trying to better understand the fit or the error rate contribution? And in that case, would we want to focus on the uncovered elements?
Well, it's more about so what we have to do is we have to build tools to make sure that we can repair our machines in our fleet. And so in that regard, we care about the most common things because we want to optimize for the common case. So if we have something that fails fairly often, I want to inject that error and ensure that whatever error logging and analysis tools and repair automation tools all do the right thing so that my repairs work efficiently. And we're going to have uncommon cases that we don't handle well, and that may be okay, although what we found is that when you have enough machine, the uncommon cases become common. But I think, does that help? And I think we do want to test ECC. So like, we've done some investigations where we've injected all sorts of errors in order to make sure that the memory controller ECC works as expected. But I think that is a more unusual use of error injection.
I mean, but it's really validating the hardware, firmware, and software stack on based on error detection, right? So Jyotika, I mean, it's really about that, right? So it's not about injecting into uncovered elements. It's about validating the functionality that happens after an error is detected.
Okay,
Yes.
sounds good. Got it. Thank you for clarifying that.
And that's why the document talks about spoofing versus injection. Is spoofing is great if you know what you're going to get for a particular error and you just want to analyze it and you want to make sure that the data flows through the infrastructure and gets to the analysis tool and the automation works correctly. But injection is really needed at the bottom level to make sure that you really can log the error in light of all the side effects of the failure. So, like some of these failures we were talking about earlier in the previous document, a VR fails, the host compute node isn't running because it doesn't have power. And in that case, if I had error logging code that I tested in some simulation or was spoofing that said, hey, I read the power controller from the host CPU and I have an error log, that wouldn't happen because the side effect of the failure is you don't run code. So I think that's key with error injection is that we get all the hardware side effects of the particular failure that we're testing. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
And here's what I would suggest. I would invite you to maybe even take a stab at the top of the document to try to make that clear. We welcome your contributions there, and I'll try to make it clear as well. But I think it'd be great. You asked a really good question. Please feel free to jump in and start typing and make it clear.
That makes a lot of sense. It's just that, I've been working quite a bit on the fault injection side of things. And so I was trying to understand what the objective and the background was for this, but I think it makes sense.
Okay,
I'll
great.
Mhm.
Oh, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that, yeah, I'll go ahead and review the document in detail as well. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And if you have clarifications, like I said, we want this to be not just a couple of us typing.
That's good.
Okay. Well, so we have a priority, and so I think that what I would
Hey,
propose.
Drew, sorry to interrupt you. Actually, that's a good question, good comment. I just added, if you scroll up, an objective of error injection. Yeah, right there. So feel free to edit it, but this is a good question, and it's good to clarify that in the beginning itself.
Yeah, you know what? We may want to put that at the very top. And
Yeah,
it
maybe
looks like we may need to do a little wordsmithing, but I like the idea, and I like generally what you wrote.
This is the top, right? The first thing is the problem statement, and then the objective, and then
Okay.
yeah. So it is a top.
Okay. Well, I mean before even the problem statement, but that's fine. I like the idea. This is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
So here's what I propose is maybe since, okay, I feel like memory has better coverage than PCIe does, in my opinion. Like EINJ, if you get the latest ACPI spec or ACPI spec, Yi, the guy that reviewed the other document, drove some changes, and we like what we have for memory if we can do everything that ACPI says. Maybe we should drill into PCIe a little bit because I think that's where Anil sees some pain and that's where I've seen pain. Does anyone object to start talking about PCIe air injection next week? I don't want to step on anyone. I don't hear an objection.
It's either everyone agrees or no one cares.
It's one of the two. Well, I know what Anil thinks, but
It's 3 minutes to 6. You can say whatever you want, and I'll agree.
what
But
do
yeah.
you think? Okay, Mark. Mark, I don't think you.
Did it already happen?
So,
It sounds good. It sounds good to me, Drew. Yeah.
can I hold you to that, Vilas? I've got some other things I'd like you to agree to.
Now I've already agreed to the one thing that I'm going to agree to. So
Okay, sounds good. Okay, well then I think we got a plan.
Sounds good. Good meeting
Okay,
today. Vilas, fine.
yes,
I'm
it's
just
fine.
saying. So I'm in the office today, so I've got to wait a few more hours, but till I fly home. But I'll think of you when I do, Vilas.
Just
Yes.
Good.
before we log off, can you go back
Yes.
to objective? I think Yogesh made a good point because we have 2 more minutes. Let's make at least align on the objective. So I added that, Yogesh. So initially I said to verify end-to-end flow prior to deploying the system in the data center, which is the primary objective. But then there is a need to inject errors once the machines are deployed also, which is the second sentence for debug purposes.
Okay.
Right?
The only thing I would the one thing I want to talk about there is that we do our testing at scale, and so it's not prior. It is prior to deploying the systems in the data center, but it's also regression testing the solutions that are in the data center. Like, do you see what I'm
That
saying?
scale
Like,
is yeah. No, that's a good point.
So I think
I
that
didn't
what
mean
you're
to say.
trying to say is really what matters is in-fleet testing, right?
yeah, I mean, if we can do it in fleet, we can do it in the lab usually, right? When we have physical
Yes.
access.
Yes. Not the vice versa, though. Yep.
So I think you have similar needs, Anil, right? You need to do it in the fleet,
Yeah, that's what I
right?
intend here, but maybe it didn't come out at that clearly, so I'm
Well, it
adding
said
an
prior. I'm
emphasis.
just seeing the word prior is what set me off.
No, it is
This
prior also. It is so.
it is prior, but it's after too. That's my point. So why don't we say test the end-to-end airflow for systems deployed into data centers?
Yeah, maybe
Let's edit it offline and come back to it next week. And
Okay,
I
we'll
think
let Anil.
we'll move it to the front of the document. I think that's a good point, and we'll start right here next week. How about that?
Sounds good. Okay, well, Anil, why don't you take the pen and see if you can make it clear that we're talking about at scale in the data center, and I'm happy.
Yeah. No, I'm aligned with you. That was my underlying assumption, but I think it's good to make it
It
explicit.
doesn't quite say that, so let's just make sure it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, folks. Have a good weekend, everyone. Talk to you next
You
week.
too. Okay, talk to y'all later.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.